So I think in this latest round of beta testing, the first thing that you saw when you logged into the system was actually um, a fiscal year and payroll period setup screen. So once we set up your account in production, um, Barry, I assume you had no problem going through here and setting up these things the way you wanted them to look.
Yeah, no, we went through and we did that. It was no problem. Correct.
Cool. Now, one thing I did notice here is in the fiscal year setup, it's kind of hard coded to 1920, which would be kind of hard to see right now because everything is FY 1920. But what we'd really want to see here and here is a template more like that, because it will substitute in the 19 and the 20 for these two YYs,
Right.
like it does here. So it's not going to produce a different result right now, but when I save it, it will make sure that when we flip over to 2021, it'll format it as 2021 and not keep it as 1920. But so that'll be the first step that you'll go through once, typically well, I can't say typically because you're the first. What we have set up is when we roll you out into production, we run a script that creates an administrative user and a bunch of, not sample data, but it populates all the lookup tables that you need with a basic set of information. Okay, so the next thing I want to take a look at is the remainder of these configuration screens. So what we have set up for, let's start with programs and subprograms. There's a, excuse me, a list of programs that are common to everyone. And then you have a county programs table. So for each of these, I'm going to open these up in a new window or a new tab just so I can come back to my admin screen. Basically, these program codes are fixed and they're hard coded for certain things. Like when you do ag activity forms, it's always looking for this ag program code, and all the CalPEATS time comes in looking for this PUE program code. So you can't really modify these program codes and names, but you can activate and deactivate them. And I can see you've obviously, got that part figured out.
Right.
Then with the subprograms, we give you a little more flexibility. So for those programs that you've got, that you're actually operating in, you can modify some of the things about the subprograms. So if you don't like the term sudden oak death, you can rename that and give it a different name. So again, those are, they're pretty basic setups, but that will, whenever you're looking at drop-down lists or whatever, programs and subprograms, that is what you'll see on there. So, if your county uses different terms for things, you can modify those.
Right.
Districts is kind of a second level table. And in here, you're going to see something that we haven't worked with before.
We can probably skip that. We're not going to be using that functionality. So if you want to move on.
Right.
Labor categories, rate types, and billing styles, we can come back to. Those I don't think are going to be critical. One big question for you is, and I think I already asked you this and got the answer was no, is whether your county does ag activities on contract to anyone other than CDFA.
No.
Yeah. So that makes things a little simpler because we can skip the whole contracts side of things, which, if you had a contract with a local weed abatement district or something like that, and you have to report your time separately for them, that's where those contracts would come into. Labor categories and labor rate types.
Well, so can I just drop in there a little bit? So that probably won't happen, but there may be situations within contracts where we do have to keep track of all that. So I think the next category you're getting right into, we will definitely be using. Because we do have to, like Barry's time, whether it's the weighted hourly wage or his actual wage, we do have to report for many of our contracts with CDFA.
Okay. So that's where you'll come into labor rate types. And We don't have any basic data set up for labor rate types and labor categories. I don't think we put any labor categories in. Oh, we did one for external contracts. But those play into when you're generating contract reports and setting up contracts, what kind of labor rates those use. The annual financial statement, which is kind of, it's a work in progress right now. There's two things on the ag side that are still work in progress. One is the AFS, and the other is the XML data submittal to CDFA. We're still waiting to get a developer assigned over there that kind of knows what's going on with that. So for right now, I'm going to skip over the setup of some of these things because that'll make a lot more sense to you when you can see how those play into generating the AFS.